Today we have quite the bit to cover. We're going to break down the prosecution of Daniel Penny. Not really a prosecution. That's a less of a word. He's been charged with manslaughter. Now, in some people's opinion, he should have been definitely charged with second-degree murder at the least. And we're going to look at a short news clip here of essentially what occurred. We understand that Daniel Penny was the man who unlawfully strangled and choked an unarmed, unsheltered black man on a New York City subway quite some time. And it's been a week since this incident has occurred, and he is now being charged. At first, he walked away without any charges happening to him at all, but now he's being charged, but with a less of a charge. Now, no one doesn't know if he's going to be involuntary manslaughter or voluntary manslaughter, which does change the outcome if he is prosecuted and charged. So we definitely need to look at this. Just a short bit of this before we get into the heart of the video. But I do want you guys to essentially listen to this quick clip that CBS News have prepared. Fair use, fair use.
Breaking news tonight in Manhattan. The Marine veteran seen putting Jordan Neely in a chokehold on a subway train will be charged with manslaughter. Good evening. I'm Dana Tyler.
And I'm Dick Brennan. CBS 2 News has learned that the Marine veteran Daniel Penny will surrender to the Manhattan DA's office tomorrow.
CBS 2's Jennifer Bisram joining us live at a rally in Lower Manhattan tonight. Jennifer?
Dick and Dana, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office confirming with us just a short time ago that Daniel Penny will be arrested and charged with manslaughter tomorrow. Yes, there was a protest happening here earlier today and a rally that happened earlier as well. Protesters calling for an arrest in this case. Now, it is welcome news for Jordan Neely supporters and New Yorkers who wanted to see an arrest in the case. Jordan Neely's death was ruled a homicide last week, and since Jordan Neely's supporters, included some city leaders, have been protesting, saying they wanted charges to be brought against Daniel Penny, the Marine veteran who was seen on video putting Neely in a chokehold on an F train that ultimately led to his death. Now, witnesses say on May 1st, Neely, who was homeless and often performed on the subway, was acting erratically and screaming on the train before Penny tried to subdue him. Penny's attorney has maintained he never intended to harm Neely. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office says the charge will be second-degree manslaughter. Take a listen to the people we talked with who were here at this protest earlier.
I'm very to hear that. I mean, I think.
So one thing I essentially want to break down about Daniel Penny and Jordan Neely is that, first of all, Jordan Neely didn't harm anyone. I think he essentially had a mental breakdown. This is just my perspective on it. He had a mental breakdown and was saying things that essentially made people uncomfortable. But there's no need to harm and kill someone based upon non-threatening acts, but just within their speech. Everyone could notice that he was essentially unsheltered, he was homeless, and that he might have been going through a mental health crisis. And this is kind of some of the problems that Black people are constantly under when we are experiencing a health crisis, mostly mental, as we call particular police departments out to render solutions to the situation because we're not equipped with that particular family member to handle those difficult situations. What end up happening is that more times than not, those Black people are being harmed and sometimes even killed. Now we have what they're stating that he is a former U.S. Marine or Marine veteran that was in between deployments. I don't know what that essentially means. That's kind of like someone stating they're in between jobs. That means they're unemployed, but nonetheless, he has been trained. I'm a former military personnel, and I understand what the chokehold can do. Whether it's a blood choke or wind choke, it can do substantial damage depending on how long you hold it. So evidently, he held it past a threshold in which Jordan Neely's body couldn't uphold that amount of pressure or the lack of oxygen that his body was actually deprived of. So these are very important nuances of the story that's not being told that we must analyze and break down to understand the full situation But we have to understand that this is once again white supremacy news media getting on code with law enforcement for this man to even walk free in the first place, because some of the questions that needed to be asked was, did he harm anyone? Did he attack anyone? Oh, he was just acting erratic. So why did you go ahead and put hands on this guy and put him in a lethal chokehold that strangled him to death? He should have been charged on the very same spot, or at least hold by the district attorney of that jurisdiction until charges were imposed. But that did not happen. He was able to walk free. And here's something else to point out too, family. Now, when we look at the definition, and this is coming from Walkwar Kelly, of the breakdown of the differences of first-degree murder, second-degree murder, and as well as manslaughter, voluntary and involuntary. So first-degree murder, you fully intend to kill the other person. First-degree murder, no questions asked. You wanted to kill them. You wanted to unalive them, and so be it. Second-degree murder, you know your actions may result in the death of another. Now, when getting taught the rear naked choke in the military, you have a trainer that is watching every action, every muscle fiber as you are imposing that rear naked choke on your opponent. And at the time that the opponent is in that rear naked choke, the trainer is there to stop you so it won't cause any bodily harm. Well, this wasn't a training event. This was a white man in modern day lynching in public, killing a black man. And someone was stating that, oh, there was another black man that was assisting Mr. Penny, Daniel Penny, by holding down the homeless man's arms. Well, we noticed that this particular black man was not a black American. I digress. Let's move on to the third one. Voluntary manslaughter. Your behavior shows you don't care if someone dies because of your actions. Involuntary manslaughter, you accidentally cause another person to die. And again, this is my conjecture. I do believe he should have been charged with second-degree murder, and hopefully those people who are on board, who are on the ground, on the grassroots, marching and charging for our brother Jordan Neely, is asking for that very same thing at the least, that is second-degree murder, because this has to stop. We have to demand justice. It will not be given to us. Good morning, Jermaine Anderson. Thank you for moderating, sir. So that's kind of my short 30-second spiel on that case. I know a lot of people within the space in the black media have been covering that, so I won't beat the drum on that too long. But let's move on to the heart of the story here. So America is in a state of emergency, and it has been for quite some time. Now, for Black Americans, the state of emergency has been ever since the white supremacists landed in this country and took it over. Yeah, we've been in a state of emergency. But now there's a second state of emergency when it comes to illegal immigration. And of course, the news media is on code. We even have Fox now stating that these are migrants. No, these are illegal immigrants, because crossing another country without authorization or prior authorization is illegal. So let's just call it what it is. And I know some of you may have friends who are associated with people who are crossing the border. You may have loved ones. You may have significant others. So be it. But a crime is a crime no matter what it is. And no one's looking at the long-term effects of illegal border crossing, illegal immigrants coming into the country. Again, the key word I want you guys to focus on is illegal, not legal immigration, but illegal immigration. So now that Title 42 has expired, it has now once again opened up the floodgates for any and everyone to come to America. Now, what's the major problem that this may impose? So there's all these different sectors that crime will increase, lack of resources, lack of land, because essentially all these countries, whether it be Asia, Africa, the Caribbean, South America, Central America, Mexico, everyone comes to America for these quote unquote opportunities and the amount of land and resources that we have. But the influx of people that's plussing our numbers at a rapid rate, we cannot react in such a manner to assist in the economy and infrastructure, house and properly take care of all of these people. And guess what these people are being taken care of with? That you guys have no say so because you cashed in your voice. Remember, if you don't vote, you don't have a voice. But now that you voted, where's your voice now? The only thing that you can do is pound the pavement and we need to put the border wall back up. Because as we walk through this, family, you're going to see that Joe Biden is now recanting on some of the words he was talking about. This is a country of immigrants. So let me show you an alarming number right here. About 60,000 people are waiting to cross from the U.S. from Mexico. Now, let's take into part, all of these people are not Mexican. These people are from Guatemala, Venezuela. They're from all over Central America as well as Haiti. So everyone is literally running for the border, literally, in these large caravans that's holding thousands of people, children, family, all sorts of people. Now, of course, understanding the dynamics of this large emergency, that you're going to have some terrorist cells in there as well. You're going to have some white supremacists in there as well. As I stated in my last video, there's a lot of hubs. There's a lot of clubs within Mexico who attribute to the neo-Nazi regimes and the ideology. Go check that out. Because that's one thing that a lot of us in this particular space, we've kind of covered, but not in detail, about the neo-Nazi regime and ideology coming out of Mexico and a lot of Central America, all the way down to even Argentina. So these are the things that we must map out, that we're going to have an influx of white supremacy in America, more so than we already have now. So there's not a matter of conjecture or perspective or being a narrative in some sort. This is just the facts of it, family. This is just the facts. So let's move on. I want to break this particular Associated Press article down and almost in its entirety, because this rings volume. They did a great piece. They displayed a lot of information, because I really want you guys to understand what was Title 42. So it states here that Title 42 of a 1944 public health law allowing curbs on immigration in the name of protecting public health. What is Title 42 and what did it do? It was a holdover from President Trump's administration and began in March 2020. The authority allowed U.S. officials to turn away migrants who came to the U.S.-Mexico border on the grounds preventing the spread of COVID-19. And even though that Title 42 was enacted during the President Trump's term, we were still having issues with illegal immigration. Even though Title 42 allowed U.S. Border Patrol agents, U.S. military, Texas state troops all across the Southern Hemisphere border. Let's look at that very quickly. Whether it was Arizona, New Mexico, California, Texas, they gave them the federal power and support in order to turn people away and not seeking asylum due to COVID-19 spreading. So that's why Title 42 was very important to slowing down the rapid influx of illegal immigrants crossing over into America for asylum. Okay, so that's essentially Title 42. It states here, before Title 42, migrants could cross illegally. You see the words here? Thank you, Associated Press, for saying illegally, not just migrants, okay? For migrants could cross illegally, asking for asylum and be allowed into the United States. They were then screened and often released to wait out their immigration cases. Think about that. So you first cross over the border into a country illegally, and then after about 60 days or 60 hours or so, they say, you can go ahead and go into America, and don't you run away and try to get lost, and because we're going to recall you for your court case. How idiotic is that? That's freaking insane. Someone has crossed into your country illegally, then you capture them. You say, well, we're trying to seek asylum from fear of harm and death from within our country. And then they're going to do a court case and ask them all sorts of questions. You know, why are you in fear for your life? Why did you leave Guatemala? Why did you leave Mexico? So on and so forth, right? And they're going to come up with whatever truth or false statements in order to stay in America. And then America decides and the judge hits the gavel and then they either stay or they go back home. But this how it was before Title 42, that they would just be allowed to enter the U.S. until they were called back into their immigration case. Think about that. So that's why we have a we have over 1 million illegal immigrants in America. From the last time I checked, we have over a million illegal immigrants in America. This thing, 1 million people run around the country illegally. Now, some of you may not think that's a problem, but again, I advise you to go look at my last video, and this is not an attack against Mexicans or no sort, because this is all the way from Mexico down to South America of the different terrorist cells within Latin America that are part of the neo-Nazi ideology, and they have formed coalitions and groups and have members, and they're hiding Hitler all over the place. Okay, so this is much bigger than the spectrum which we're focusing on now, because this is tenfold for Black folk. How would this affect us in a large manner? Now, a lot of us really never paid attention to, okay, that's them white people worry about that. They're the ones on the border with, acres of land. But this would directly affect you as well. Because a lot of the jobs, and it's not just about jobs, it's about white supremacy, it's about discrimination, it's about a whole slew of different things, family, that we have to understand the dynamics of this. I'm not telling you to be a Republican. I'm not telling you to be a Democrat, because I'm nothing. I'm just Black. And we have to start looking out for our best interests, because every other group looks out for their best interests. The Asians look out for Asians, more power to them. Hispanics look out for Hispanics, more power to them. Whites look out for whites, more power to them. But we need to stop this Black, brown, Black, white, Black, Asian coalition, because nobody else speaks for us as we speak for them. I digress. It states here, under Title 42, migrants were returned to over the border and denied the right to seek asylum. That's the key thing about Title 42. They were returned back over the border and they were denied the right to seek asylum. U.S. officials turned away migrants more than 2.8 million times. Now, I don't know if this was individually, families, caravans. I have no idea. Families and children traveling alone were exempt, meaning that they still were able to come. So they was probably most talking about onesies and twosies, right? President Joe Biden initially kept Title 42 in place after he took office. Then he tried to end its use in 2022. But we were still under that kind of COVID mandate, so to speak. So Joe Biden did something even bigger and better than that. Listen to this. Republicans sued, arguing that the restrictions were necessary for border security. Courts had kept the rules in place, but the Biden administration announced in January of this year that it was ending national COVID-19 emergencies, and so the border restrictions have now gone away. That's why essentially this has essentially ended. And family, this is a crisis. This is a state of emergency for Americans, okay? Okay, I know a lot of us, we're heartfelt. We have all of these children and families trying to come to America for a better way of living. But the one thing I understand about America, what they try to do to keep certain people within their country, they give them foreign budget. They give them foreign funds. So we have a federal foreign budget that we give aid and support to all these different countries. We've even given military and security support. So while we're not going inside some of these countries, and if it's fear of cartels and gangs and violence, why haven't we assisted them within their own country to keep them there? Was this a ploy by the Biden administration to create a buffer class of white Hispanics to plus up the numbers of white people to keep dominance over Black people or over non-white people? I'm just asking questions because we have to look at this in its totality, do we not? Now, let's listen to this very quick. So what we're seeing here, family, is people crossing the border illegally and trying to get into America. Okay, trying to get into America. Now, a lot of us, unfortunately, a lot of us was against the wall because we were making excuses, we was making reasons, we were talking about the federal budget, the national debt ceiling. We were saying, well, if we create this large border, that the border from Mexico to America, then people who are trying to cross the border, they would just dig tunnels. Well, family, here's my thing, right? If you're in a sinking boat and you have a bucket and you can keep dousing out the water from the bucket, and someone say, hey, listen, stop. We just need to stop, taking the bucket and douching water out. And somebody said, no, we're going to sink. We're going to eventually sink. And you're like, well, we're going to eventually sink anyway if we stop douching out the water of the bucket. What's the point I'm trying to make here, family? We can at least slow the bleeding, and that's what's very important. Let me move on. I don't want to lose you guys, because this story is very, very important for us to understand in its totality. It states here that the Biden administration has put into place a series of new policies cracking down on illegal crossings. Really, Biden? I remember you did a clip and you state that when someone asks you, can I look that up very quickly, family? Because I think seeing is believing. I wish I had this prepared for you guys. Because he disrespected Black people, and we did absolutely nothing when Biden stood in front of us as he was asked about reparations, and he stated that this is a country of immigrants. Hold on, give me a second here. Give me 1 second here, family. I got to find this for you. I have to find this for you. I'm really trying to find this. Let me see if I can. This is very hard to find. It was a clip that I used to save and play a lot. So of course they probably took it off the internet. Anytime we expose these people, they love to delete the videos off these platforms. Let me see. Let me try one more time, family. We're gonna continue on. Let me see one more time. Let me see if I can find this. Yeah, I'm not seeing what I'm saying, but he stood up in front of. Let me see one more. I got one more chance here. One more chance here, because he was at a town hall. Let me make sure I put that key verbiage in there. Let's see here. Yeah, I can't find that clip, family, but it's definitely out there somewhere. And he was asked about reparations.
Mr. Biden,
let me
we're
see.
at 16.9, almost 17% Black unemployment. Latino unemployment is at 17.6.
This is not the clip.
Last statistics of the Labor Department. Let's do a hypothetical and say that you are elected, you get people of color's unemployment down to single digits.
Okay. I want to take from the argument here, family, because that wasn't a clip. But he stood in front of town hall and he was asked about reparation, and Biden stating that he didn't say nothing about reparation. He said this is a country of immigrants and we should get used to it. So that let open the floodgates, because now they have the president of the United States, the most powerful country militarily in the world, stating that this is a country of immigrants. So guess what immigrants are going to do? They're going to keep coming. Illegally, legally, doesn't matter. And as you see here, family, before Title 42, they could just cross illegally, be captured, and say, I seek asylum. That's all they had to say. And now they can stay within the country, and then they will be released in the United States of America until their court hearings. And guess what, family? If you're really just coming to America for better opportunity, meaning you're not fearing persecution or fear of your life and your other, guess where you're not going back to? You're not going back to court, because now you're within the system. They're recording your information to a certain degree, and they can now hold you in internment camps or facilities until they deport you back. So a lot of these illegal immigrants that were released inside of America, they never showed up for their court cases. They never showed up. They got with distant family members, cousins, friends. They got it on their own. They were getting hired from different farms and ranches throughout these different states that border Mexico. And again, I want to point out that not all of these illegal immigrants are from Mexico. They're traveling through Mexico. But as we see here, we're going to see some of the patchwork that the Biden administration is going to try to do. I don't know if he's already in talks nationwide about some of the things he's going to do by putting these illegal immigrants in other countries, maybe to plus up their numbers for cheaper labor or some sort. But if you don't think that this influx of illegal immigrants, 30,000, 60,000, over 1 million illegal immigrants already in America, is not taken away from your jobs and security, I beg to differ. I just beg to differ, because it doesn't matter me stating that these people are upstanding citizens or not. You just have to know that if hundreds of thousands of people are in America from another country, all of them can be upstanding citizens. That's all I'm saying. So there will be increase in crime. There will be a decrease in resources. There will be a increase in unemployment. These are the things that we need to be looking at. Okay. It states here, the administration says it's trying to stop people from paying smuggling operations to make a dangerous and often deadly journey. I want you to pay attention to that, because it's one of those things that Biden is stating because he don't want to contradict himself about this being a country of immigrants and allowing a lot of these immigrants inside the country illegally. So he said, you know what? We're going to start cracking down on illegal crossings. Well, why are you doing that, President Biden? You are president of immigrants, correct? Well, we're trying to stop people from paying smuggling operators because they're making a dangerous and often deadly journey. Oh, okay. So you're worried about them trying to make their way to America in a dangerous way, in a dangerous journey? What are you talking about? Now there will be strict consequences. Migrants caught crossing illegally will not be allowed to return for 5 years and can face criminal prosecution if they do. Really? So you mean to tell me prior to this, President Biden, that illegal immigrants can cross into America, illegal cross into America, which is a federal crime, that they will then seek asylum and be released into America? And now you're contradicting yourself, saying, you know what? There's going to be strict consequences. They will not be allowed to return for 5 years, and they could face criminal prosecution. What? You're now imposing the laws that America had in the first place? We're the most powerful country in the world. We're the most policed country in the world. We have more law enforcement agent per capita than any other country in the world. And now you want to impose these strict consequences of people entering the country illegally? Wow. That's your president. I guess it's mine too, but I didn't vote for him. I can tell you that. And I didn't vote for the other guy. It states here, people from all over the world travel to the U.S.-Mexican border to seek asylum. And that is what I was referring to earlier, not just Mexicans, because this is not, I'm not anti-Mexican, I'm not anti-Guatemala, I'm not anti-Haitian. I'm just stating I am pro-legal immigration. That's it. Because these people are from all over the world. They are screened to determine whether they have a credible fear of persecution in their homeland. Their case then goes to the immigration court system to determine if they can stay in the U.S. But that process can take years. Usually, listen to this, they are released into the United States to wait out their cases. They're just released. They just released into the United States. Go beyond and be fruitful. The Biden administration has now turned away anyone seeking asylum who didn't first seek protection in a country they traveled through. Well, I can definitely tell you that none of those people from different countries other than Mexico did not try to seek asylum in Mexico. I can definitely tell you that. This is a version, wait a minute, of a Trump administration policy. Okay, I'm confused, Biden. You said you was 100% different than Trump. You told black people, if you don't vote for me, then you ain't black. But now I'm hearing some of the same rhetoric, some of the same policies you're going to impose that Trump tried to. Oh, so you are trying to stop the boat from sinking. I guess that backfired, didn't it? So I wonder if people are now going to get on board with building a wall. Now, some people really just thought that the wall was idiotic. Oh, the wall is going to cost billions of dollars. Well, what about the billions of dollars that we sent to Ukraine damn near every month? $1 billion here, $1 billion there, $1 billion everywhere. We're just sending billions of dollars to Ukraine. Not even our war. You mean to tell me we have all these European countries over there and no one is sending Ukraine money except for the U.S.? Yeah. There were some other countries that surrounding them send like $100,000. Yeah, we got $100,000 on it. But America going to send you $1 billion, so don't you worry about that. But we have our own problems. But we won't build a border wall, but we have illegal immigrants. What? And we still are owed reparations. You get how that all really doesn't make any sense? America debt ceiling is $32-33 trillion. We need to raise the debt limit to pay our own bills to our own damn self. We can't give foundational Black Americans reparations because of X, Y, and Z. And I don't want to pay your reparations, but we can give money to Ukraine, but we don't have enough money to build a wall. What the fuck is going on? That's the system of white supremacy taking both sides of the argument and both sides of the situation. But it states here that this is a version of Trump's administration policy that was overturned by the courts. Advocacy groups sued to block the new rule minutes before it took effect. 30,000 people, focus on these numbers, family. 30,000 people per month from Venezuela, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Cuba, as long as they come by air, have a sponsor and apply online first. So they put some stipulations in place, weak stipulations. The government also will allow up to 100,000 people, 100,000 people, family, 100,000 people from Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras in the U.S. who have family here if they too apply online. So if you have a family member here from Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras, then you can come up to $100,000 per month. Border officials will otherwise deport people, including turning 30,000 per month from Venezuela, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Cuba, who've been sent back to the border to Mexico. Interesting. 740 people per day have been allowed in using the app, which is being increased to 1,000 per day, meaning they're going to have increased numbers of immigrants inside of the country. It states here that families crossing the border illegally will be subject to curfews, and the head of the household will have to wear an ankle monitor bracelet. Immigration officials will try to determine within 30 days whether a family can stay in the U.S. or be deported. Usually the process would take years. The one thing I'm sort of confused and why we haven't done this with these international relations between Mexico and the U.S. is house them in Mexico on the border. Help Mexico with some of our tax dollars, because it doesn't matter. We're still doing it with our tax dollars on the U.S. side, but build facilities, okay, that's protected by Mexican federal troops of some sort, or state troops, whatever they have. The federales that wear the mask so people can't understand that, see their identity, and house them in Mexico. But we keep cross-contaminating and bringing them inside of the U.S., and then we say, go beyond and be fruitful. We're going to put an ankle monitor on you. Family, some of us may know people who had ankle monitors who figured out how to detach them and reattach them, and fled wherever they needed to go to. We see this all the time. So I don't think that was going to suffice for the American people, but it's not sufficient. The Border Patrol stations are meant to house migrants temporarily and don't have capacity to hold the volume of people coming. Well, no shit. I don't know anywhere that you can hold 100,000 people, especially on the border, and are already too crowded. Exactly. Because if we go back up here, family, you are allowing 100,000 30,000 people per month. You're allowing 30,000 people per month from other countries. You know what? You know what's going to happen, family? Bear with me here. You know what's going to happen? Eventually, we will no longer be the United States of America. We will be called United Idos or Idos Unidos, meaning United States of America in Spanish. I know that was horrible, but nonetheless, we're going to look at shows like an MSNBC, like Lester Holt, right? Lester Holt does a nightly special. Was it once a week or every week of the night? And Lester Holt are going to get up there. He's going to be like, "Hola, ¿cómo está, mi amigos?" They're going to have to start speaking Spanish because we are country immigrants, right, Joe Biden? Where we're allowing all these different Hispanic countries inside of America, where we're not helping them fix their situations and issues within their country. Look at these countries, family. All of these countries, except for one that they label speak Spanish. Venezuela, Spanish. Nicaragua, Spanish. Cuba, Spanish. Guatemala, Spanish. El Salvador, Spanish. Honduras, Spanish. And Haiti, French. So we might as well, listen, I live in Texas. I'm about 500 miles from the border, but there's a large population of immigrants where I live at. I started speaking, I had to start learning Spanish because you go to the car wash and you're like, hey, don't use that product. And they're like, oh, you're like, habla inglés? Oh, no, habla español. They're asking me, habla español, poquito español. Oh, so I'm speaking chopped up Spanish and they speaking chopped up English. I'm just telling you the state and what to expect, family. I'm telling you what to expect. They states here that as a result, agents begin releasing migrants. Listen to this. Agents begin releasing migrants into the U.S. with instructions to appear at an immigration office within 60 days or face deportation. Now, you guys have watched many shows, movies, series, etc., where ICE agents are coming to look for illegal immigrants who they release and now trying to gather and capture them to deport them. Doesn't that create a bigger problem? You're going to release them into America, then call them back into their court cases, which they know in the first place, the real reason why I left my country is because the lack of opportunity, the lack of resources, the lack of this, versus facing some sort of fear of persecution of a cartel gang or a family member trying to harm or kill me. No. Most of these people are coming here for these jobs that he can gather under the table and live a better life here in America illegally. And if you don't think that takes away from jobs, because some people say, well, immigrants and the Hispanics, they're the ones in the field picking the fruit. They're the ones doing X, Y, and Z. Well, family, a lot of those pick and fruit jobs are now going away. With the age of robotics, AI, and also technological advances, a lot of these farmers are now getting machinery to do some of this work because you don't have to worry about people getting sick. You don't got to worry about low numbers for that month because those robotics, that machinery is going to do it every single time. The only thing you need is a tech to keep it maintenance. That's about it. Let me move on. It says here that agents were told to begin releasing in any area where holding facilities were at least 125% capacity, meaning that they were 25% over the allowed capacity. Then you can just start releasing illegal immigrants inside of America. Let them go. We don't have enough room for them. Just go beyond. Think about that. Have they ever done that for prisons? Have a prison ever been overpopulated and they say, you know what, just let them go? Somebody say, well, those are criminals. And wait a minute. If these people crossed over into America illegally, does that make them criminals? Well, you can't say families who are trying to avoid persecution and fear and death in their own country criminals. Yeah, someone can have a family and commit a crime. Yeah, you can. A whole family commit a crime. Am I stating that these people are criminals? I'm just saying their act of crossing the border illegally is a criminal act. It's illegal in America, and they know this. Again, I'm not anti-immigration. I'm pro-legal immigration. Let's just keep that a buck. Let's keep that in the forefront of your mind. So people don't think he's anti-immigrants. Not at all. There are also, we're told to start releasing if 7,000 migrants were taken into custody across the entire border in one day. So you have this large border family stretching from California to Texas. 4 states in all that these illegal immigrants can cross into. And they're stating if more than 7,000 come across the entire border, which does, because we're talking about 30,000 migrants a day is coming at the border in these large caravans, then the rest of them can go. So we do an average number of 30,000, then we're looking at what? 23,000 could be released inside of America per day. Let's look at the live news here. This year, so this is live right here on WeOn. WeOn, one of the news that I watch regularly because they kind of, in my opinion, is not as biased as some other news agencies here. And there's this live going on right now of all of these people are at the border or across the border, all over the place, and they've been showing this for the past hour or so. And as you can state here, it says heavy influx of migrants at U.S. border after Title 42 expired. So it's very, very busy. It's very, very busy. It's just all sorts of people all across the border, all across the streets, any and everywhere. They just on the street, land across here, land across there. This is a state of a nationwide emergency. And let me tell you, I don't agree with a lot with Donald Trump. Didn't vote for the guy, didn't support the guy. But one thing I did agree on, you can watch some of my old videos, was border security. Was definitely border security. So we have all these people, they're showing these different clips here and there. And don't forget, family, you're only seeing one. Some people are, oh, that's not that many people. But don't forget, this stretches across 4 states. I just want to point that out to you. Let me go back here. Okay. U.S. officials plan to open 100 regional migration hubs across the Western Hemisphere where people can seek placement in other countries, including Canada and Spain. Did he speak to the president of Canada? Did he speak to the president of Spain? Like, hey, listen, we have an illegal immigration problem where we're having like 100,000 people at the border of America. You know what? This is a large contradiction, family. Let me tell you why. Remember how Biden was speaking out against Governor Abbott and Governor Ron or Moron DeSantis or DeSatan? I always forget how to pronounce the guy's name. Let's just go for the sake of words, because I'm not really that good with words. Let's just call him Moron DeSatan, the governor of Florida. But nonetheless, remember Joe Biden was speaking out against the governor of Florida and the governor of Texas, transporting the illegal immigrants to Chicago, New York, DC, all of these black large cities. And again, that's why I say the system of white supremacy takes both sides of the arguments, because they're taking illegal immigrants and putting them where a vast majority of black people. And now you hear the black Chicagoans, they're like, hey, you're housing these people in our neighborhoods in schools that we asked for funding, but now we got funding for the illegal immigrants. And we're like, well, you didn't know that you was a sanctuary city? No. Not a sanctuary city for homeless black folk. No. Not a sanctuary city for low impoverished black folk. No. A sanctuary city for people who have illegally crossed over into America that can now find refuge and be supported by your tax dollars, whether it be state or property tax. They're using your money. And that's why mayors like Lori Lightfoot is no longer going to be the mayor of Chicago. We have to think about this in totality, family, how this directly affects you, how this directly affects America. So if you guys are not familiar, okay, if you guys are not familiar with these sanctuary cities, well, let me help you. Here are the states, and you're not going to see Texas, and you're not going to see Florida. You're not going to see Arizona. Okay. So first, let's do this. We have one, two, three, four states, as I stated before. We got California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. The four bordering states from Mexico to America, right? And out of those four, only one is listed on the states that have sanctuary cities, and that is New Mexico, right? California, Colorado, Connecticut, Illinois, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Vermont, and Washington. Okay. Now, I'm not going to read all of these names, but I want you to look at some of the cities and counties that are sanctuary to house these people in. That's why anytime you go to California, I've been a couple of times, but only been to LA once. There is a large population of Hispanics. Not a problem. I'm not stating, I'm saying things and I don't want my words to be twisted. I'm not saying that's a problem, but I'm just kind of giving you the baseline effect of this immigration or non-immigration policies that America does not have. Colorado, look at all the counties, not just cities, because take, for instance, certain counties have 4 or 5 cities within the county. So the entire county is open for sanctuary, right? Connecticut, East Haven and Hartford, my hometown, DC, Georgia, look at all the counties there, only 3 of them. Iowa, I really haven't heard Governor Abbott or Governor DeSantis sending anyone to Iowa, which majority of the population is white. But DC, we used to be, the Black Mecca, okay? Chocolate City, when DC population was 70% Black, now it's about 35 to 40% Black, but still have a large enclave of Black folk. And they have sent people there to Washington, DC. They have sent people to Atlanta. They have sent people to Oakland and different parts of California. Let's move on. Let's see here. You got Illinois. We already stated that Chicago is a sanctuary city. They sent thousands of illegal immigrants there. Louisiana, New Orleans, Maine, Massachusetts. Remember they shipped them up to, was it Northampton? And those people had a problem. Like, wait a minute, we are a sanctuary city? Where are all these illegal immigrants coming from? They're just getting off the bus with no direction. Yeah, that was your Governor Abbott and Governor Ron DeSantis. Yeah. You got Maryland, B-More. Remember they were dropping them off in B-More? See, in a lot of these counties and or cities have a large, predominantly Black population. So they're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. They are getting these illegal immigrants out of their state, then 2, undermining these Black cities and counties. So like I told you before, white supremacy, they work so visibly and benign that you have to understand the total dynamics of what they're doing, right? Michigan, Minnesota, wait a minute, Mississippi, Jackson. Isn't Jackson, quote unquote, a Black city? Interesting here, huh? Nebraska. I haven't heard of any illegal immigrants being shipped to Nebraska, right? And again, a lot of these immigrants are coming from these tropical, beautiful places like Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras. Now, believe it or not, the impoverished state that they're in has nothing to do with the beautification of their country. These countries are absolutely gorgeous, family, and they're coming from warm climates. So they're not shipping them to Nebraska, but you're shipping them to New York. New York is in Chicago, the windy, frozen city. But you're not shipping them to Nebraska. I wonder why. Is it just too white there? Newark has a large population of Black people. Do you understand what I'm getting at? Because a lot of these counties and cities and states have sanctuary cities, but when we look at the demographics of the places where they're sending these illegal immigrants at, there's a large enclave, a large demographics of Black Americans there. Then you just have to ask your question, why? Why haven't nobody been sent to Nebraska? Interesting. Nevada, New York, North Carolina. Like, have you heard, Yeah. See, Ohio, Oklahoma. I haven't heard anybody really going to Oklahoma County. Oregon. Now, look how many counties in Oregon that they have for sanctuary. But have you heard of anyone or any entity, federal or state, sending large influxes, large populations of illegal immigrants to these quote unquote sanctuary counties within Oregon? Because we understand that Oregon is a predominantly white state. So you get what I'm getting. Look, goddamn, that's the entire state of Oregon. They say, you know what, Oregon is a sanctuary state and every county within it. This, if I'm not mistaken, family, because Oregon is not that big, this is the entire state of Oregon. Look at all of these counties in Oregon. Holy crap. Okay. Pennsylvania. Look at Pennsylvania. Philadelphia. You know what I don't see on here? And maybe Pittsburgh fall within one of these counties. Rhode Island, Providence, Tennessee, Shelby County. I haven't heard anyone going to Tennessee. Don't forget, Tennessee is the birthplace of the KKK. So maybe that, Virginia, Vermont, Washington State, almost the entire state of Washington. And believe it or not, Washington State does have a large population of Hispanics there, okay? So I just wanted you to understand the demographics and understanding how white supremacy kind of throws a rock and hide their hand and then throw the rock from the other side and hide their hand, but they're throwing rocks at each other. It really doesn't make any sense, okay? So asylum, let's break down asylum very quickly. The protection granted by a nation to someone who has left their native country as a political refugee, an institution offering shelter and support to people who are mentally ill. So as a political refugee, so you mean to tell me that these people here are in fear of persecution for political reasons? Is that what you're saying? Because now, if I'm the BRICS, right? You guys are familiar with the term BRICS, right? Brazil, Russia, India, China, as well as South Africa. If they were ever wanted to go to war with America, we're fighting all of these different fronts. We're supporting Ukraine, giving them money, giving them military supplies. We're fighting the war, immigration. We have active duty troops, reserve troops, National Guard troops, all sorts of people. We have all of our military people dispersed and disseminated across the border in order to slow down illegal crossing the border. These are some of the issues that America is facing, but nobody wants to really talk about it because, as I stated before, Joe Biden told you guys that this is a country of immigrants. But then good old Sleepy Joe, he went back on his words. Yeah, he did. Where is that? He went back on his word. Give me a second, family. I need to find this for you because he told them that, listen, the Biden administration is now turning away anyone seeking asylum who didn't first seek protection in a country they traveled to. Do you think people from Guatemala, Venezuela, Cuba stopped off in Mexico, say, hey, we're trying to seek asylum? They're like, no, this country is just as bad as the country I left. We want to go to America. We want to go to the big Walmart, 24 hours. We want to go to the big Walmart. We want to go where we can get jobs and support our families illegally. And see, a lot of times, a lot of people, we're so heartfelt. We feel for these families, these children, because we're human. But we have to understand how this will put a great toll on the American way of living. That's the one thing that we don't want to really think about, right? Because it hasn't hit home for you yet. Yeah. You're like, oh, you know what? I'm just doing fine. I'm over here in South Dakota. South Dakota is the one state that hasn't had a mass shooting. I'm good here in South Dakota. Or better yet, I'm good here in Missouri. I don't need to worry about illegal immigrants. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Once these illegal immigrants, let me help you guys out. Once these illegal immigrants cross the border, they go everywhere. They go to every state except for probably Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, Dakota, and South Dakota, and Nebraska. But when we split America in half, if we look at the 30-36 parallel line, they mostly go East Coast, where they're mostly widely accepted. But because of the the area in which they are, they stay in Texas, Louisiana, New Mexico, Arizona, California, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and Florida. Because if you're in Cuba, you're most likely going to go straight to Miami. You're going to go straight to Miami. If you're in Cuba, you're going to go straight to Miami. Now, I don't understand why they don't go to Puerto Rico, which is a U.S. territory. Right? It's right here, but they come to America like, no, we're not going to a territory. We're going right to the homeland. And I want you to look at this map, family, because it's going to paint the picture for you. These people are coming from Venezuela. They're not going into Colombia. Now, there are a lot of Venezuelans in Colombia. Don't get me wrong. But just like any other country where an influx of people migrate illegally into that country started to really increase their border security. They have to. They're having major issues with other people from other countries like Ecuador and Venezuela, all trying to run to the border to Colombia. So then they have to cross illegally or take boats from Venezuela to go over to Nicaragua, to get to Guatemala, to get to Mexico, to get to America. Because the one thing that you guys may not understand, you're saying, well, if the Cubans are taking small watercrafts in order to reach America, why aren't people from Guatemala, Nicaragua, Venezuela taking these same watercraft to go to Louisiana? Very, very few of them can afford it. Very, very few of them could withstand the weather within the Gulf of Mexico. Now, the Gulf of Mexico, what people don't understand, they have horrible weather. They have all sorts of high tidal waves, very, very erratic, unpredictable weather in the Gulf of Mexico. So the safest way to travel is through what? Through the rainforest and the jungles in Nicaragua and Guatemala and through Mexico, because they don't just have, the ships in order to do this and be undetected if they would go through the Gulf of Mexico. Because you would think, why Cuba, if they're getting stopped in Florida, why won't they just head to Alabama or Louisiana? And I say to you, very, very few of them are actually doing that, because this is the biggest problem. Now that Joe Biden has contradicted himself, are you now and again going to vote for good old Sleepy Joe? Because as I stated before, Joe Biden told black people, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. And then when he won the presidency, he said that black folk had his back and he's going to have ours. How's that been working out for us, family? If you don't vote, you don't have a voice. Now that you voted, you really don't have a voice, because now your representatives are now representing you by allowing Title 42 to expire, let alone no new immigration policies. And they would tell you, well, these immigrants are now fulfilling jobs that American citizens don't want. Yes, they do want them. Because here's the thing, the reason why they're playing this game with you is because we understand that big business are in bed with politicians. So if I had a fruit farm, let's say I had 60 acres, I'm growing, I don't know, mangoes or whatever, and I need 150 people to work on my mango farm. If I hire one of you guys, I have to pay you at least $15 an hour. If I hire them, I only have to pay them $3 an hour, $2.50 an hour. And that's why we used to see a lot of Hispanic people, not just from Mexico. I want to get that out of your mind. A lot of these people from everywhere. We see a lot of Hispanic people 5 and 10 to a Toyota Corolla. That's because they're getting paid below minimum wage, because they are illegal. You don't have to pay them legal wages, right? Because those are imposed by the state. So I don't have to pay you minimum wage. I can pay you way under minimum wage. They're paying them prison wages, $1, $2, $3 an hour. Where if you was a citizen, now I have to go by the law and actually pay you the $12 to $15 an hour. Well, Why would I do that? And I have 30,000 illegal immigrants that I can house and put them in these facilities where they can sleep right here on my ranch, right here on my farm, and pay them $3 an hour. They just need enough to eat and probably buy some clothing. Think about that. And they're working what? 12, 14 hours a day. And a lot of us are not thinking about the bigger picture. You're saying, well, these are jobs that Americans don't want. Yeah, Americans would want them if they paid reasonable wages, like the state minimum, right? Let's just go with $12 an hour. If you was getting paid $12 an hour to go pick fruit, and you had PTO days, vacation days, sick days, so on and so forth, then there would be more Americans in these jobs. Because guess what you will have to have? You're in the bleeding sun all day. They will have to provide sunscreen and hats. They will have to give you the gear in order to work that job. You get what I'm trying to say? When I was an operations manager at Amazon, you know what had to occur, family? They had to give us gloves. They had to give the workers gloves to pack the boxes. They had to give you the tape, the surrogate, the boxes, the product. You got everything you need. The only thing that Amazon needed was a warm body. So a lot of these fruit farms and these ranchers across the border that hire these illegal immigrants encourages illegal immigrants to continue to come and run for the border. It's a crime. And America is not cracking down on those people who are majority white hiring illegal immigrants. That's encouraging other illegal immigrants to run for the border. Who's the real criminal? The people who are trying to come for resources, benefits, and a better way of life, or the people who are employing the illegal immigrants? Who is more at fault? Because if I lived in one of these other countries and I'm running for the border for better opportunities and resources and benefits, and I get to the border and they say, hey, none of these American people are hiring us. They stopped hiring us. So like Florida did, and Florida imposed a rule. Let me pop that up very quickly. Did y'all see what Moron to Satan did? Did y'all see what Moron to Satan did? He put in some verification process. Let me see. Let me pop this up for you guys very, very quickly here. Very, very quickly. Here it is. Ron DeSantis signs immigration crackdown as Biden prepares to end Title 42, right? The move comes a day before Biden administration plans to end a pandemic-era immigration policy that could lead to a large increase of migrants at the southern border. Now, this dude, in my opinion, is a total idiot, but that doesn't mean that a clock can't be right twice a day, right? That means in some instance, I do understand and agree of what he's doing, right? It states here that Ron DeSantis signed a sweeping immigration overhaul bill Wednesday, a move that comes weeks ahead of a anticipated run for president and just a day before President Joe Biden administration planned to end Title 42. DeSantis has long used immigration to attack Biden, with whom he has openly spurred for nearly 2 years as his national ambitions. So here we go. Some provisions in the Florida bill 1718 banning local governments from issuing identification cards for people who can't prove citizenship status. Look at that. Look at that. He went totally against these other states, which makes sense. We're not going to give you an identification card because you're not a citizen. Makes sense to me. Makes sense to me. So Moron to Satan did something. Someone gave him a spark, because I absolutely agree with that one bullet. Let me move on. Requiring hospitals that accept Medicaid to include a question on intake forms about the patient citizenship status. Wait a minute. Is this SB Bill 1718 pro-American? So far, so good. Banning undocumented law school grads from being admitted to the Florida bar. You know what? He getting real close for me to take off my hat to Ron DeSantis, which is really hard for me to say. It's really hard for me to say because Republicans and Democrats alike are anti-black. Okay. And I'm not saying it's inclusive to everyone. So, but he's stating that, okay, you're in a country illegally, you're undocumented. How the hell can you be a lawyer in Florida? Now, family, wait for Texas, because Texas and Florida, they kind of, hey, this is what I'm doing. You know what? I'm going to do something similar to that. That's a good idea. Wait for Texas. Let me move on. Increasing penalties for human trafficking related offenses. That's about illegal border crossing. That's about the coyotes and smugglers smuggling people across the border. That's what that's about. Human trafficking. Human trafficking. That's all that is. Coyotes taking people back and forth across the border. Smugglers taking people and other paraphernalia, across the border. That's what human trafficking is related to that. Beefing up on the required use of E-Verify, a federal database employers can use to check a worker's employment eligibility. So what is he doing now? They showed a clip of a workplace, a work construction site in Florida, of this massive construction site in Florida where they had to halt operations because they say, hey, this SB Bill 1718 came into place, and now we have to verify every employee we have here today. Now, they showed a picture of all these employees looking puzzled and paralyzed, like, what do we do? What's going on? Some of them speaking in Spanish, some not understanding what's going on. Because we're moron to Satan knows that a lot of you here are illegal. And these construction jobs, yeah, we understand. You guys are skilled, or you became skilled in America. Let me get to this point here. There are a lot of illegal immigrants in this country who comes to this country with no skills and no trade. They learn from those who are already here. I've seen it. I've seen it with my own eyes, where these other Hispanics who may be legal citizens take upon illegal citizens and teach them the trade. They teach them roofing, framing, cement, drywall, whatever it may be, bathroom, whatever upgrades in your house, all types of construction. They teach them right there on the job. They come over here with no skills. See, family, back in the 1800s,
Let's bring in live from the southern border, Anna Giaritelli with the Washington Examiner. She is in El Paso, Texas, and Todd Bensman, a fellow at the Center for Immigration Studies, is right across the border in Matamoros, Mexico. Thanks to the both of you for being here. Todd.
Got some background feed here. So back in the 1800s, they used to teach Black folk trades. Training in art, trade, mystery, and employment, opportunity of exploration of free Black apprentices in New Hanover County, North Carolina. But in high school, a lot of Black people used to learn all of these different trades: wood shop, carpentry, metal work, etc. But they don't do that anymore, because for a very long time, Black people were doing the same jobs as these illegal immigrants that's entering the country. But in a sort of another way to suppress Black people, they got fired, they got laid off, and they allow these other groups of people to come in and start unions to protect them, like the Irish, the Italians. And now, because the white numbers are dwindling, illegal immigrants as a new buffer class for many of reasons. See, you don't just oppress a people by acts of discrimination, racism, bias. No. You limit their opportunities. You limit their resources by flooding their communities with other groups, right? Remember when you used to grow up, there used to be a candy lady. There used to be a candy shop with an old Black guy or old Black lady. And then you got around 15 to 20 years of age of your Generation X. Then those shops became mom and pops shops. and I ain't talking about your mom or your pop, I'm talking about Asians in your community, and then they started labeling you as the criminal. Because here's the thing, family. Even in our low impoverished neighborhoods, before they were low impoverished, kids always stole candy. Hey, you know, Jolly Ransom, put it in my pocket and I pay for this one. And now they're flooding the Black communities with illegal immigrants. As New York, as Chicago, as Baltimore, as DC. But we used to be the working class of America by the trades that we have. So really, family, the thing that Florida is doing, I'm not against. I'm not against, family. Let me move on. DeSantis acknowledged that immigration policy is set at the federal level and Florida's role is limited, but he has an intense focus, on trying to remove any incentives migrants may have to come to Florida. Right. He's trying to limit the amount of illegal immigrants he has in his country. In his state. I also call it a country, right? Now, let me just show you
Eric
some
Adams
of these
went
clips
to
of
Eric
New
Adams
York
went
Mayor
to extremes.
Adams. Because don't forget, he was pro-immigrant, but he started crying out against Biden and speaking against Biden because he needed some federal support.
The national government has turned its back on New York City. The New York
Oh no, Mayor Adams. They turned your back on New York. First, you didn't have a problem. You was like, New York is a state of immigrants, but now you're crying out. See, it's like no one looked at the bigger picture. You cannot let hundreds of thousands of people in your country and act like things won't change for the better. There's going to be increase in unemployment, decrease of benefits and resources. And if you don't believe that it's going to take a toll on the infrastructure, then God damn it, you're not listening hard enough. Because when these people get injured and they go to the local hospital that is state funded, and you either pay state taxes or property tax, guess who's funding the bill? You are. Do we need to pop up the national debt? Because maybe Ukraine is getting all the money. Maybe Ukraine is getting all the money, or maybe it's just me. I don't know, family. I don't know. Maybe Ukraine, because again, we're roughly at $32 trillion in debt. We're roughly at $32 trillion in debt, family, and running. So we need to raise the debt limit, I guess. Let me go back.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams openly reprimanding President Biden, a rare move from a fellow Democrat on the national stage.
Every service in the city is going to be impacted by the asylum seeker crisis.
The mayor saying it's taking an economic toll on the city, having already spent $817 million on housing and services for asylum seekers as of the end of March.
Look at them unloading the buses. Yeah, get
He
in there.
expects that number to balloon to $1.4 billion by the end of the fiscal year.
He's really walking a tightrope here. He's trying to be pro-immigrant, saying this is helpful for the economy, helpful for the city, trying to...
Can I ask you guys a question? So if the American government has allowed illegal immigrants inside the country, and they've been busing these illegal immigrants by hook or by crook, by the way of Florida or Texas, doesn't matter how they get there, but they got there. And these Black mayors don't have the federal support that they need in order to take care of these people. But we have billions and billions and billions of dollars in military equipment to send over to Ukraine to support them in their crisis. Then who's at fault for that bill? Again, I don't have the answers for everything. I got some questions, though.
slow migration into New York City.
Adams urging the Biden administration for emergency paths with 200 migrants arriving daily, according to the city's estimates.
Y'all see that? Y'all see them people?
Daily.
Look at these people. Come on, internet, hurry up. Hurry up, internet. Here we go.
With 200 migrants arriving daily, according to the city's estimates. Adams fears that when Title 42, the Trump-era policy limiting immigration due to COVID, ends next month, the number of immigrants will only accelerate, putting too much strain on the city's budget.
This is in the lap of the President of the United States. The President of the United States can give us the ability to allow people to work.
At the heart of the matter is the number of migrants who rely on New York City services since they cannot legally work. Mayor Adams presented 3 ways the federal government could grant work authorizations to migrants, expanding eligibility.
Let me tell you why this is important too, family, because on one hand, Mayor Adams is calling out Joe Biden, the lack of support. Then the other hand, he's coddling immigrants. Look at this right here.
Eric Adams went to extremes last night to promote the administration's new tent city for
Of course, YouTube
migrants.
is now going to...
He spent the night under the enclosure at the Brooklyn Cruise Terminal. He slept on a cot. The mayor played video games as well last night, laced up his sneakers this morning. Adams pointed out he picked the coldest night.
Symbolism, family. On one hand, you're crying out against the Joe Biden administration, the same Democratic Party that helped you get to be the mayor, and you tell him, I need these funds and support, but then you want to go coddle illegal immigrants and sleep with them and play video games. This is all about showmanship at this point. He is already working on his next term to be New York City mayor. Because at the end of the day, this is a huge damn problem in a city, in a state, especially New York City, is already overpopulated. Now, America, let's talk about America in its whole. Bill Gates will come out and say that America is overpopulated. That's a damn lie, Bill Gates. I've driven across America a couple times in my life, and I've driven across hundreds of thousands of acres of land with nobody in sight, or maybe a little house on the prairie. The problem with America and other, countries, I'm pretty sure they have some of the same problems, is that majority of people galvanize and live in group around major cities. You either live in a major city, you live in a suburbs of the major city, or you live in the rural areas of the major city, meaning that you're probably about 30 minutes away. Okay? You live anywhere from an hour to 10 minutes from a major city. But when you look at the totality of America, if you're driving through Nebraska, Idaho, Montana, even Texas, to going to Oklahoma, you see acres and hundreds of thousands of acres of land with a little house on the prairie, a little house on a hill, a little house out there in the field, where there's ones and twos of people living. But people live close to cities because of opportunities. Because America at one point in time didn't do a mass virtual home working, meaning that we have all these people working from home via their computer. No, majority of Americans went into work. And those people who are out there farming and ranching of the different products that they were essentially galvanizing to get together and put into grocery stores and shops, they had all the land. So majority of people gather around major cities. So typically major cities and the suburbs and areas around them are vastly overpopulated, but not America in its whole. And guess what we can't do? We cannot now disperse all of these people, these influx of illegal immigrants, and start putting houses and all of this around America, because that's what that would do. That would then delete and decrease the amount of farmland that we have to feed American citizens. Again, I'm not anti-immigration. I'm pro-legal immigration. Very important. But this is symbolism, Mayor Adams, and you asked for it and you got it. Now my internet is slowing up. Good job, YouTube. Good job.
We will be over 100,000 in the year to come. That's far more than the system was ever designed to handle.
Exactly. That is my point, family. That is my point. This is one mayor talking about one city, and he's talking about over 100,000 people coming to his city. Now I want you to think about the numbers we spoke about earlier, about 30,000 people a day for certain countries, and then 100,000 people per day. That means when New York gets overpopulated, it's going to move to North Carolina and South Carolina and Georgia and Maine and Pennsylvania, all across the U.S. The infrastructure is built for a certain capacity. And you're speaking about a city like New York that's already overpopulated. Then it's going to start to overspill into other states. And then they're going to have the problem. Good job, Joe Biden. Way to open up the borders for illegal immigration.
This is unsustainable. New York City is doing all we can, but we are reaching the outer limit of our ability.
And by the way, if you ever been to some of these major cities, have you seen them build facilities for homeless Black people? Have you seen that? You see all of a sudden, all this money is coming out the woodwork in all these cities and states on a state and federal level, that now we can build shelters, but we couldn't build them for all the homeless people in LA. We couldn't build it for all the homeless people in DC, all the homeless people in all these major cities around the US. But now we have the money and resources to build these facilities for illegal people that committed a criminal act by crossing the border illegally. Wow. See, I would think that America was somewhat just. I would think that America is somewhat humane if they looked at the citizens the same way they look to people who cross inside the country illegally.
To help.
The shelter system overwhelmed. More than 61,000 people now living in shelters, just shy of the all-time record from 2019.
We need help, and we need it now.
Adams now looking for ways to send migrants to other cities, and said he's negotiating with...
Did you hear that, family? What did I just say? I didn't look at this video into its entirety. I didn't even hear that, but I spoke it. I said this is going to start to spill into other states. He is now saying that because they're being overpopulated, it's going to spill into other cities. Can we hear that again?
Is to send migrants to other cities, and said he's negotiating with cruise ship companies to house migrants on ships. But his primary plan...
Wow. See, they never did this for Black folks, family. They will allow us to be killed in the streets by the hands of race soldiers with guns and badges, killed in the streets by white supremacy groups, killed in the streets by white supremacy vigilantes, and now they have the resources and propensity to house illegal people on cruise ships. On cruise ships, family.
Plan is to build a tent camp on Randall's Island, just off the coast of Manhattan. Critics slamming these housing plans.
The city should be ensuring that rather than opening up, tents, which might be susceptible to extreme weather, or cruise ships, which we know throughout the pandemic have been hotbeds of COVID spread, they should really be focusing on things like hotels and purpose-built shelters in order to make sure that people are connected with safe accommodations.
The migrant crisis in New York City, orchestrated by Texas Governor.
So house them in hotels. So now the hotels will be overpopulated, where American citizens cannot travel because now all of these hotels are filled up by illegal immigrants. All right. How about just create legislation that go against what we already have in place, that people who cross the border illegally are to be sent back and deported into their own countries, and that you need to go the legal route to get into America, to go through legal immigration. Because when you go through legal immigration and you fill out all these forms and application, that's going to the National Archives and headquarters to see that the population of America can only withstand a certain amount. Because at one point in time, the population of America rose to 350 million people. Then it decreased down to 330 million people, right? Because a lot of people was taking Plan B, having abortions, and they started to see, the dominant society started to see their numbers dwindle. Then they noticed that by the year, 2045, 2055, that white people no longer be the majority. So they started to influx immigrants to beef up their numbers, so to speak, and also continue to decrease the amount of resources in other low impoverished Black communities and give those resources to illegal immigrants, as we see here. But now, as America is feeling the pressure on all these accounts, then guess what? Guess what? They're now contradicting them own selves. That's what's going on.
Greg Abbott. In a statement, Abbott's office telling NBC News, Mayor Adams is an absolute hypocrite.
I'm no friend of Greg Abbott's, but I do agree that he's a hypocrite. And didn't I say that, family? And again, this is one of those news videos I didn't even look at, but I could just tell where it was going.
Adding, instead of fear-mongering and complaining about a few thousand migrants in his sanctuary city, Mayor Adams should call on President Biden to do his job and secure the border, something the president continues failing to do.
Right. So Mayor Adams, right, contradicted himself, and now it's becoming a hypocrite. And I hate to say it, I agree with Governor Abbott, because you're crying about you need this support, need that support. But the reason why you are in this predicament in the first place is because you're trying to do party over America. You rather coincide with the Democratic Party instead of looking at the faces of your citizens and say, you know what, we have a major problem here. And I'm going to call out Joe Biden and say, hey, we need to secure the damn border. New York City cannot handle any more illegal immigrants. New York City can no longer handle any illegal immigrants. And the one thing that people are not talking about when it comes to illegal immigration, family, guess what they're not talking about? They're not talking about the illegal immigrants from Asia. New York City has a large population of illegal immigrants from Asia. So Mayor Adams is a hypocrite. You want support, you need this, you need that. What's the real problem, Mayor Adams? Because for a very long time, illegal immigration has been the #1 problem in America, and people have been ignoring it. Now everybody's paying attention to it. You know why? That's because these good old white people, they started to see an influx in traffic. They saw going to some of these public domains and start seeing an influx of people that do not look like them. And they have to stay in line 3 times, 4 times the amount. And when these people go up to the counter, they can barely speak English, but they have an identification card. But now Joe Biden's contradicting himself, saying, we're not giving out identification cards anymore. Really? You're going to start turning these people back and have to wait 5 years to come back? And if they do, they're going to be persecuted federally? Interesting. Very interesting, Joe Biden. Very, very interesting. This is very interesting stuff, America. Family, this is very, very interesting stuff.
In Washington, D.C., some 50 migrants dropped off at the residence of Vice President Kamala Harris early Thursday morning, marking the 4th time since September.
Okay. I'm giggling because it's stupid. It's not funny. Because these are people's lives that these political pundits are toying with. So I'm not laughing at the people who are going through this. I'm laughing at this political chaos that no one is pointing to the root of the problem and stating, you know what the problem is? Illegal immigration, securing the border. That's the real problem here. Because no one is stating, we don't want none of these people in our country. All these people are rapists and terrorists. No. No one, well, except for Donald Trump, he said it. But no one else is saying that within the space. You know what they're stating? We want pro-legal immigration, legal immigration, legal immigration. And the only way you're going to have that if you secure the border. I've been to over 40 countries, family, and they have, in some of the poorest countries in the world, and guess what they had? Secure borders. Or they had natural borders that was almost impossible for you to cross inside the country. Some of these borders, you have to hike up 14,000 feet in elevation across a snow-capped mountain, then come down in fear of avalanches, crevices, fall into cracks. Guess what? If you make it, you deserve it. Only the strong survive. Didn't Darwin coming out with that? Only the strong will survive. Those people, if we had the same natural borders that was difficult to traverse and come into, you might hear a different statement from me. Like, you know what? 10 of them came over here. Unfortunately, 100 of them died because it's very difficult to cross those borders. But I guess those 10 were the strongest. But we don't have that. We have very flat borders. We have little small rivers that separate Mexico from border in certain spots. So they can just walk across in the water or take a little rowboat or whatever, or walk across. So we need border security. We need the wall to be finished. Again, I'm not anti-immigration. I'm legal. I'm pro-legal immigration.
That Texas has left asylum seekers at her doorstep.
Why is he not speaking in English? Just pointed out a question.
They have been told to get on these buses and promised that an organization would receive them here, give them food, shelter, and a job.
These just the latest families.
Wow. So they was told to get on these buses, and family, they don't have a choice. They don't have a choice. You're inside of a country illegally where armed people are demanding you to get on the bus. And they say, you know what? When you get to your destination, there's going to be an organization that's going to give you shelter, food, and a job. Again, I have to look at a very large population of homeless Black people, and I guarantee no organization said, we're going to house all of you guys and get you back on your feet. We're going to give you shelter, food, and a job. And matter of fact, not only that, we're going to teach you a trade so you can never become homeless again. We're going to teach you plumbing because we don't see robotics or AI taking off plumbing in the next 10 or so years. We're going to teach you to underwater weld. There's certain robotics out there, but not those very intricate and vivid pieces of welding that they can do underwater just yet. We're going to teach you guys oil rigging. We're going to teach you guys all sorts of things so you can stay on your feet by these trades. We don't have time to take you guys to 4 years of school, but we do have anywhere from 6 months to a year to teach you a trade, get you a job, and put you on your feet. You know why? Because the governor of Florida is cracking down on E-Verify, meaning that these illegal immigrants within the country are going to be without jobs. So it behooves the American government to go and get these homeless Black people and do the same thing you were going to do for the illegals, give them shelter, give them food, and give them a job. But before you give them a job, how about you take them to a trade course so they can do the job properly? How about that? Since we're just giving away shit. We're giving away resources, we're giving away benefits, we're giving away jobs, we're giving away money. How about you give it to the citizens of America first before you give it to non-citizens? Because guess what? Some of these people have families, mothers and fathers and children and sons and daughters, just as well these people who are illegally in the country. I'm not anti-immigration. I'm pro-legal immigration.
caught in the middle of a political battle, pinning border Republican states against northern Democratic territories. A critical point coming last month, with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis chartering a flight full of migrants to the wealthy, heavily Democratic enclave of Martha's Vineyard. A political play from border states causing...
Now, this is when white people started to wake up. Moron to Satan did something unprecedented. He took a flight of illegal immigrants and he didn't send them to Baltimore. He didn't send them to LA. He didn't send them to DC. He didn't send them to Chicago, Pittsburgh. He didn't send them there. He sent them to the wealthy Martha's Vineyards. And them white people, when those immigrants got off the bus, they say, why in the hell are you guys here? Well, you guys are a sanctuary city. We're waiting for the organizations to give us food, shelter, and a job.
Chaos up north.
And while this emergency declaration could speed up the creation of those shelters, officials here tell us it could be weeks until the tents on Randall's Island are up and running. And until then, busloads of migrants are continuing to arrive here.
Family, that's it for today. We did a really good breakdown of this. I see I got Jermaine Anderson, Jay the Informant. Let's see here. Jay the Informant said, I would love to see Fox News ratings since Tucker left. Yeah, he had a large following. I mean, anytime you're anti-black, you're going to have a large following in America. 1,500 troops were sent for what? Secure the border. He also states Cadillac converter theft is up in all cities where illegal immigration is pumping housing, Dallas, LA, and so on. And don't forget that illegal Cadillac converter theft was actually ringleaded by Asians. I want to point that out because we can't keep continuing to think that because we have all these illegal immigrants that's coming from south of the border that's mostly Hispanic, that we don't have an illegal immigration of Asians and some of the crime rings that they have within America as well. See, they have always made black people the criminal class of America. But if you look at any of these reports that they have of the criminal classes and the crime rates, that black people aren't really high as people thought. No. And we understand that simple numbers, white people outnumber black people. But when you deal within the percentages, if any of you guys took one class of math, anytime you have unequal simple numbers, you then have to do things based off percentages of those particular numbers, which give you the true value of what the issue is. So when we look at the percentage of crimes in the white community against percentage of crimes in the black community, guess what? The white community have double the crime. But what they do is, in the system of white supremacy and mass media, they keep projecting black faces on TV when it comes to crime and this new agenda of LGBTQ, that majority of black men and black women are part of the LGBT community. Not stating that is wrong or right, but that is absolutely not true, because we understand that the LGBT community only represent around 3% of America in its whole, according to the last polls that came out in different perspective statistics and polls that were out publicly. So when we look at these things, family, you have to do a deep analysis versus this taking with mass media, because every now and again, mass media does do good reports, but you have to comb through the rhetoric, okay? Because they'll give you a headline on one thing, but when you read within the context, it's totally different than what the headline is. They may give you the truth in the headline and false statements within the journalism, or vice versa. So you have to look out for that. Look out for that as well. Jay the Informant, I'm sure it's more than 1 million. Absolutely. It's more than 1 million. It's 1 million plus when we're talking about illegal immigrants within America. Family, that's my time for this morning. You guys have a great and prosperous day. And the next time you guys vote, I want you to think about this. I want you thinking about Joe Biden disrespecting black folk time and time again by giving Asians an anti-hate crime bill that black Americans should have got decades ago, but he gave it to them. The money that he's pumped into the Asian and Hispanic communities, not hating on them, but we deserved it a long time ago. We didn't get that from him, but he publicly acclaimed Black people had his back and he has our back. And I want to ask you guys this question. When has Joe Biden had Black people's back? Was it helping with the homelessness problem within the Black community? Has it been helped with gentrification? Has it helped with redlining? Has it helped in the system of white supremacy and these race soldiers with badges killing us with impunity and immunity? Has it helped? Absolutely not. And the number one question I have for you guys, because we understand we're not receiving justice, have we received one iota of reparations? Absolutely not. It's not that something that we deserve. People like to say, oh, we deserve reparation. We don't deserve a damn thing. We are owed reparation. Deserve and owe are two different things. And we need to understand the different dynamics within those words and etymology of words when you state those things. Black Americans, we don't deserve anything. We are owed reparations, cash payments, land, and justice. So when it comes to that, family, you have a great and wonderful day. I'm out.